Here's how no FAP is ruining your life. I remember when I was younger, and I too was addicted to porn, seeing all this stuff, seeing, going on TikTok, going on Google, going on incognito mode, seeing all this stuff. And I remember there would be times where, I would just do it so much, like 5 times a day, and then to a point where my head, like, after I was done, after I was done, I would get like this sharp pain in my head. I don't know how. It just my head started hurting so bad because of I think it was because of how much I did it. I would be like just so much times, and I knew that I needed to do something. I needed to change. So I began to research, look up, you know how to quit porn, how to stop fapping, all this stuff, and still, I was still doing it, day in and day out. I just it was just this constant cycle where I knew I needed to stop doing it, but I just kept doing it either way. I just did it. I just it was just really hard. It's just a cycle where like, oh, tomorrow I'm gonna stop fapping, and tomorrow rolls around, I fap again, and then I tell myself, oh, tomorrow I'm lucky. Tomorrow I'm not gonna fap. I'm not gonna check off. Tomorrow. Matter of fact, I'm not gonna check off for the whole week. And then what happens? The next day, I fap, and I tell myself again, I'm not gonna fap, and I fap the next day, and so on and so on. Just this constant cycle where you're just stuck in this loop. You have to stop, but you just can't stop. It's just like a drug where it's bad for you, but you still do either way. And what I found out is that some reasons why you keep relapsing, why you relapse, is because one is, well, for me, one, I realized that I wasn't busy. I was busy just playing video games, staying up all night, doom scrolling, just doing all these bad habits. And what did that lead me to? Like, for example, just doom, I would be doom scrolling, going on TikTok, all of, just scrolling, and then all of a sudden, oh, I see a girl with leggings, with yoga pants, and then all of a sudden, I get the urge. And what happens when you get the urge? You relapse, you fab, you just keep seeing it, keep seeing it, and then you just relapse. And then on top of that, staying up, not doing anything productive, not going after my goals, not going working out, not going out for runs, not doing anything productive, which just staying inside would lead me just staying inside would just lead me into doing those bad habits, just watching porn. Why? Because I was bored, I was bored. So what did that make me do? It made me want to play video games. It made me want to doom scroll. It made me want to fab. And yeah, the reason why is because you realize is because one is you're not busy. You're not busy chasing your goals. You're not busy bettering yourself. You're not busy improving yourself. Because if you really think about it, when you're doing all this stuff, when you're improving, you're more or less likely to fap. Why? Because you're busy. You're busy going out chasing your goals. You're busy working out. You're busy going out for a run. And on top, once you're done after that run, you're gonna be less likely to fap because you feel proud of yourself for chasing your goals. For going on that hard run. You're just gonna feel proud of yourself. And another thing is the mindset is you're not on no fap. You're on less fap, which means basically you're on less fap. Matter of fact, the mindset is instead of telling yourself I'm trying to quit porn. Just tell yourself, I don't watch porn. I don't do any of that stuff. Because if you really think about it, if you just tell yourself, I'm trying to quit porn, well, yeah, that's we think that's good, just saying that. But if you're trying to quit porn, trying to quit these bad habits, you still have that mindset of someone that's still doing it. But if you just make a small minor change where you tell yourself, I don't watch that. you just you don't watch that, and your mindset is it's different. It goes, you're not gonna do it if you just if how you see yourself. So if you tell yourself, I'm trying to quit porn, you still have that mindset of someone trying to quit porn. But if you just tell yourself, I don't watch porn, you're gonna act like someone that doesn't watch porn, that just doesn't do any of these. And yeah, you're not trying to quit. You just don't do that stuff. And another thing is start small. Whenever let's say for example, you watch porn for like once a day, which is 7 times a week. Why not next week you do six? And that's pretty easy because it's just one. It's just once. And then the next week you do five. And then the other week you do four. Then three and two, one. Or maybe it's maybe in a month you do that stuff once a day, which is in a month there's like 30 days. So why not the next month you do 29 days or maybe 28? And the reason why you just keep relapsing, falling back is because you set the bar too high. It's just like saying someone going to the gym, someone like a noob, a skinny person, and they want to start with 200 kg, which is like literally 400 pounds. It would be impossible for that person. Why? Because they're not at that level yet. And that's what you should do. Just start small and slowly progressive deload it instead of progressive overload. Progressive deload it where one week you do seven, like how I said earlier, you do 7 times a week. Next week you do 6 times a week. Then the next week you do five, and so on and so on. And then eventually you'll just stop doing it because you tried other methods where you just told yourself, oh, you know what, I'm just not gonna do anymore. And then what happens the next day? All of a sudden, you fall into a trap. You fall into lust. You fall into doing all that bad stuff. And another thing that you can do is just set goals, set big goals. Maybe it's running a marathon. Maybe it's bulking up to 200 kg. Just set goals, set big goals. Maybe it's starting a YouTube channel. Maybe it's starting a business, starting something, something that you really like. Because if you set big goals and just go out and pursue, you go out and you go after them, you're more or less likely to fail. Why? Because you're doing something that you want to do, and you're gonna be proud of it for doing it, and you're just gonna be happy. And since you're happy, you're gonna be less likely to fap. Because why? Because you're happy and you don't need that stuff. And another one is because you're gonna be busy. You're gonna be busy going after your goals, going after what you always want to do, your purpose, the thing that really matters. And yeah, just you're not a no fap. You're not you're not trying to quit porn. You just don't watch that stuff. And yeah, just have that mindset. Start small, set big goals, so that way you're less likely to fap. So that way your goals take up take up take up most of your day, all this stuff, and then eventually within like 2 months, 3 months, you'll just eventually stop. You'll just eventually quit porn, quit watching all that stuff, and yeah, it's that easy. And yeah, it's just easy peasy. But it's gonna take time, bro. It's not gonna be that. It's gonna be. It's not gonna happen overnight. Just take it slow. Take it day by day, and yeah, yeah, and then yeah, that's basically it. Take your time. Start small. Have that mindset, and yeah, that's it. And yeah.